All right, everybody, stay tuned for Hillary's dream episode, Wine and a Train.
It is the holiday bonus episode, and we are on the Napa Valley Wine Train.
Actually, a episode rife with some fascinating history and information about our local alternative mode of transportation, the wine train.
And a piece of our childhood.
And
fun.
Lots of fun.
All right, well, stay tuned. Hello, everybody, and we have ventured down to the big city of Napa, all the way from Little St. Helena.
And we are sitting currently on the Merlot car.
Of the wine train.
Congratulations, Hillary. This was your,
This was the goal.
Biggest goal of the year was to get onto the wine train.
The 2022 goal, we made it.
We had to convince Hillary to do it while the train was parked because we needed to be able to hear.
That was a sad day for me when I realized it. Yes. But I'm super excited to be here, and we have a very special guest. We have Nathan, the general manager of the wine train, here to join us and tell us all about wine, the wine train history, upcoming events, and all the cool things.
I love it. I'm excited to hear all about it. So,
welcome.
Thank you guys.
Welcome. I guess
we're really excited to be
having
here.
Us.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. And welcome to the wine train.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So we already explained kind of a little bit to Nathan what we do, and we just talked about, a little bit of the local crime in the police blotter, and then relate that back to the wine train. So thanks for joining us.
There are sometimes definitely the wine train makes it into our log. Ooh. For sure.
Well, I've got a couple that are actually here that we can talk about shortly.
Okay.
So
cool.
But anyway, we always start off with some wine. So what are we drinking today, Nathan?
So we are tasting a little bit of Raymond Chardonnay, his reserve blend, which is one of the wines that we pour in one of our wine flights that we offer for our customers on board.
Nice. And
so always tasty. And then Hillary's enjoying a nice little Domaine Chandon bubbles. It's always a nice way to get the day started.
Yep.
If it hasn't already.
As I said, I never get between Hillary and her champagne. So.
Yeah.
I feel like some of our previous guests are going to kind of be intertwined with the Raymond wine and things like that.
That was Hillary's other big goal, was to talk to JCB and get him on the podcast. Yeah. And we did that last year, so it was a lot of fun.
An icon in the valley.
Yes, absolutely.
He is putting his stamp in Napa Valley
in
a big way.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really like about John Charles is he is passionate about Napa history.
Yes.
And making sure that we don't lose sight of where we came from, so we stay fixed on where we're going. And I think that is a very noble cause that he brings to the vallay.
Absolutely.
So cheers to JCB.
That's a good point. Definitely.
Speaking of history, I was going to say, is that where you were going?
I was actually asked what wines you typically serve on the wine train, then maybe history.
Okay. We can start with wine.
Since we're drinking it. What other wines do you guys usually share on the train?
We really like wines that are easily visible from vineyards or wineries that are right along our route. Mm-hmm. The route runs from our station right at the Oxbow Commons in Napa up to St. Helena. We terminate the line at Krug, and then we come back to the station. And it runs along the Highway 29 for a majority of the ride on the west side of the valley. And so when you think about those wineries that pepper that side of the valley, different than the Silverado Trail side, it's Oak Knoll is our first AVA that we pass through. Mm-hmm. Pinot Noir, Chardonnays, Sauvignon Blancs, lighter white wines. And then you progress into Yountville AVA, where you do continue to see some Pinot Noirs, but it's starting to get a little bit warmer, as you guys know. And so then you start to see Merlots, Malbecs, Petit Verdots, and quite a bit of Cabernet in that area. Then we jump over the hill. And I know most people don't consider there to be any hills on the valley floor in Napa, but with a train, we definitely acknowledge that hill getting over the Yountville grade is a significant push for us with the age of our equipment. And so we get up over that hill and we get into Oakville, and it's a cruise control mode at that point because we're downhill a little bit. And we get down into Oakville, and of course Oakville, stark, world-class fruit, wines. And then you've got the Oakville grocery store. You've got the welcome sign, which is one of our stops on one of our experiences we can talk about a little bit. And then you've got wineries like Sequoia Groves. We get up into Rutherford. And then St. Helena AVA, of course, is the fifth. And that's whenever we make the turn and come back.
Nice.
As far as styles of wines go, though, we like wines that are really trying to be true expressions of their varietal. But then I like all kinds of different wine classifications beyond that. I generally tend to gravitate more towards lighter alcohol style wines maybe that old world style. And I think there are some great producers in Napa that do old world style wines instead of the big, 15% alcohol wines that'll just blow your socks off. Maybe wreck your next day. And in Napa, we think it's important to save some gas in the tank for the next day.
Absolutely. And you don't want any unruly train riders either, so which is also helpful.
We've got police reports to review. Did any of them percolate in here?
There's probably one.
It was more kind of bystanders watching the train go
yeah,
by.
okay, copy. We do get some of those.
I believe that.
We're getting ready to launch this really exciting Master Somm flight that we're totally pumped about, which we think our customers are going to love, because a few of those notable landmarks that we pass by are like Farniente and Opus One. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to do a really nice 3-ounce each of Farniente Chard, Opus One, and then we think the really nice counterpoint to Opus One is the Insignia from Joseph Phelps. So those will be the 3 wines you'll get to try.
Nice.
1 Chard, 2 Cabs. Wines that a lot of customers maybe have never been able to enjoy, and at a bottle cost of $4.50 for an Opus One or an Insignia, like this will be an affordable way to get into those wines and enjoy that on your experience.
That's awesome.
So it'd be fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, with that, before we get into history, I did want to start us off with a couple of good log entries.
I would love to hear a log entry.
Here's a fun one. This is Wednesday, October 19th. We are doing the October Police Log.
Yes,
and
we're
what's
doing
the
October 2022, and then we're doing October 1989 in honor of the first passenger experience on the wine train.
Awesome, right on. So here on the 19th of October at 2 p.m., a railroad crossing arm at Adams Street had reportedly been cut off and left in a gutter. Fortunately, and then here the next entry is my favorite. At 2:11, a driver said she'd backed into the railroad crossing arm at Adams Street. She met with the officer who took a report.
There was a 12-minute delay for reporting her crime.
Yeah, banged out the old railroad crossing arm.
I'm just impressed she backed into it.
Well,
instead of like driving and hitting it, it was like a back end motion.
How'd that happen? Great question. No idea.
Maybe she went to pull out, the arm came down, and then she's like, oh, I'm not going to make it out in traffic, and
there
backed
are a
up.
surprising amount of people that think that they can make it.
And they cannot.
And then they get over to the other side and they're like, oh, wait a minute.
Didn't make it.
And what we see quite a bit is people that try to gun it to get around us. Ooh. And then get stuck on a very shallow shoulder to try to enter into the Highway 29. Mm-hmm. And the traffic sometimes, we think it's better to take the wine train and avoid that Highway 29 because sometimes they just can't even merge. And the best thing and only thing they can do is back up.
Yep.
And a train, unlike a car, we have brakes, but they work a little differently than in a car. We don't stop quite as quickly. Yep. And so people see the lights in their eyes and they're like, I got to get off this track. And we're like, yeah, you do.
Definitely do.
I am a big advocate if you guys ever want to implement a commuter car, maybe drops me right at Target and Trader Joe's. That would be a dream come true.
Yes.
I don't think that's ever going to happen, but in my magical fantasy land, that would be the best
thing
ever.
We don't rule anything out.
Perfect. If Trader Joe's would just implement a little station for me.
That would be, I know the shopping options up valley are a little bit less ampliful than down here in Napa,
and
but
sitting in that traffic,
the big city, as you referred to it.
Yes, I'm lucky that I do opposite commute.
Yes.
But coming down for an appointment, things like that, and you just sit there. I'm like, and the train's rolling past. I'm like, that would be much more convenient.
Yeah. One day we'll see.
One day.
There's lots to talk about it.
Perfect. Well, I have a kind of a silly one. On Saturday, October 8th, report of a Chihuahua and a pit bull biting a mailman near Church Pope. Police determined the mailman was able to scare the dogs away without being bitten.
Solid.
I feel like that's quite teamwork, a Chihuahua and a pit bull working together.
I mean, anything against the postman, the
dogs?
Viral enemy of any dog. Well, let's get into some history.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for this. So we talked briefly before, but Nathan, can you take us through some of the start of the history for the wine train?
Yeah.
We got to go way back.
We got to go way back.
Civil War times.
Yeah, like the foundation of the San Francisco 49ers.
Wow.
We go back, I love the story of the wine train and the history of Napa Valley. It's so rich, and it just lends itself so well to storytelling. And I think that's what really captivates John Charles also, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like there is rich history in Napa. But, the foundation of the wine train is rooted in the gold rush days. It was in 1848 in the town of Sacramento that this guy, John Sutter and Marshall, discovered gold right there in Midtown in the American River. Mm-hmm. And Didn't really know what it was. Of course, they wanted to legitimize that it was gold, but there's no way back then to really just go and test it. And so they put it through a couple different tests that they could, but in doing that, they interacted with a few too many people, and a couple chips of this got spread around. And we know the name of Sam Brannan has a lot of resonating history in Napa Valley.
Yep.
And Sam Brannan also had a lot of history in New York, where he was from, but also in San Francisco. Brannan Street was named after him. Very prominent tycoon, icon in the foundation of San Francisco, and was a mercantile and a newspaper man. Very important, because those play a big role in how his story unfolded. And when that gold nugget was starting to get distributed, somebody ended up going into one of his stores in Sacramento and made a purchase with that gold nugget. And that gold nugget turned out to land in his hand, because people don't just have gold floating around. Just like today, if somebody were to come in to buy a wine train ticket from us with gold, they'd probably be like, Nathan, what do we do? And I'd probably say, I don't know.
I'll trade you.
And so let's talk to the guy. And so Sam wanted to talk to these guys. Where'd this gold come from? And is there more of it? And of course, before there was the big announcement, Sam made the really smart decision, as a businessman would, to go out and purchase all the mining supplies in the state of California and bring them to San Francisco and Sacramento. And then, once he had procured all of that equipment, he published gold in his newspaper in New York and San Francisco and started the gold rush. Hundreds of thousands of people came. And when they did, it changed the trajectory of California overnight. Up until then, California was still somewhat of a sleepy town, driven largely by missions, some rugged pioneers. And overnight, it became boomtown. And we know the rest of the story from there. A lot of people came out here, spent a lot of money to buy those supplies that Sam owned outright, to basically mine the Sierra foothills and not make any money, not find any gold. And so he ended up becoming the first millionaire of California as a result, never mined for any gold himself. And with that money, wanted to take and create his empire, similar to the town of Saratoga, New York, in upstate, where with Hot Springs Resort Town, an hour outside of New York City. And instead of being in New York, though, found what we now refer to as Calistoga, and the hot springs there, and built the resort, the city hall, the shop, in addition the train station, to be able to get people from San Francisco in a luxury mode of transportation up to his resort town, terminating in the town of Crockett, because back then, of course, there was no Golden Gate Bridge, no Bay Bridge, and so they all had to travel down to South San Francisco, to town of Crockett and Santa Clara, and then come up from there. And his way of getting them there was the wine train, the original inception of the wine train, which has always been built as a luxury mode of transportation, and still exists today as a result of that. What I think is so fascinating is that those tracks were established in 1864.
Wow.
And as he was standing on his town hall steps, the rumor has it, of course you probably know this story, is that he was getting ready to name his town the Saratoga of California, and had been drinking a little bit of his own distilled potions that morning. And so his newspaper went to print the next morning when he announced the town to be the Calistoga of Sarifornia. And by the time he woke up from his stupor, the newspaper had already gone to print, so the name still sticks today.
For Calistoga.
And so that is the true-to-life story of Napa still today, that we still drink the juice and enjoy what this valley's all about. And so we love that story.
I love it.
That original resort location is Indian Springs, which is owned by the Merchant family. They've owned it for almost 30 years now, and very different today than it was then, but still just the most amazing hot spring, rejuvenating life experience. And regretfully, the train tracks do not go all the way up to Calistoga anymore.
I was going to say, man, they used to go all the way up there. And when did they get sold off?
So after Sam lost all of his money, died penniless, the wine train fell into disrepair. It became a freight operation for some time, and then even that wasn't something that was continued. And so it was in the late 30s that it really kind of went into disop, and basically the tracks kind of went back into the ground. And whose right of way is that? Is it really owned still by that original entity? Is it something that can be purchased? And so for many years it just kind of sat dormant. And then there was a group of local Napa folks that rallied together who wanted to save the rail line and bring it back. And they went out to find as many different investors as they could to cobble together enough money to be able to relaunch the wine train. And they stumbled across the larger-than-life, modern-day tycoon of San Francisco, Mr. Vince DeDomenico, who was, once he heard of this opportunity, said, stop looking for anybody else, I'm doing the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Vince's roots came up through cattle farming, in addition to his creation of Rice-A-Roni, formerly owner of Ghirardelli Chocolate, mm-hmm. and so very well-to-do, qualified, experienced businessman, who then I think was prepared to go to battle with all the wineries of Napa Valley to get the wine train reopened, because it was, when in '89, when we first launched again on September 15th, wasn't popular in Napa. Noise, traffic delays, people losing portions of property that they thought was theirs, with the rail line being realigned.
I can only imagine the
locals.
And so
it was quite a polarizing issue.
Clash of
I mean, you remember there was a bunch of signs everywhere, and there was all up near the tracks, and I remember Ed Shacks in Rutherford was not a fan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think it's changed a lot.
There's still some of that out there. But I think we've come a long ways.
But it's such a charm.
I think people understand now, like a little bit better than before, that it really does add a lot more charming character to the valley. Mm-hmm. We love the hot air balloons for everything that they bring, and they're not without controversy either. Mm-hmm. But imagine Napa on a great morning when you don't get to look out and see the balloons flying. Then it just doesn't feel quite like Napa anymore. And that's the same as during COVID, we closed for 14 very long months. I joined the train in July of 2021, so I came in right after reopening. And I can tell you, I can't even express how many folks I've run into that have expressed their gratitude for hearing that train whistle blow again, and just feeling like, life is getting back to a little bit more of normal again.
It was too quiet.
It was.
You're right.
Amen. And so it's been a really long, illustrious, but also filled with highlights. Cool. It's interesting. I know there's a great report from the Visit Napa Valley Destination Management Organization from 2018 that of a survey of visitors to Napa Valley said, what was the reason that you came to Napa Valley? And we think Napa Valley has a powerful brand worldwide for its wine. But 26% of those respondents were here for the Napa Valley Wine Train.
Wow. And
so we also are helping as that undercurrent of tourist dollars coming into the valley and helping to prop up the quality of life that we all get to enjoy, because we are a tourist destination. Mm-hmm. Without them, we would have a lot more compromises in our quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever have friends say, what should I do? Or they reach out and say, I heard about the wine train, should I come on? I've had a few friends reach out to me. They're like, I'm coming to the valley.
What things should I do?
And I say, absolutely. Then you don't have to get a driver. You can just be transported up the valley.
It's cool because, like you said, you stop at Gurgit, Satui. Where's some other places?
Krug. Yep. Oldest operating winery in Napa Valley, 1861.
We did an episode with the Mondavi sisters.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah,
they're very supportive. Yeah, we stop at those three today. We've got our, I guess you would say our premier experience, the thing that we're most proud of. It's a 6-hour, 3 wine tasting, 4-course, just Epicurean experiential journey. Cool. An attraction on steroids, where the team has really dialed every minute of the experience to deliver something that will stick with you for the rest of your life. And it's all about the right blend of entertain time and alone time with the person that you're there with, so that you're never overly uncomfortable trying to find something to talk about, and there's always some new little journey of discovery that's waiting to unfold.
So a good first date?
I was just going to say it's a good first date.
Yes. We see a lot of anniversaries. We see a lot of honeymoons. That experience is not inexpensive. It averages around $550 per person for a ticket to ride the train that day. But it is just incredible. And that experience starts at the station. We do breakfast on the way up to the welcome sign. We stop at the welcome sign. We invite everybody to an open air car where the wind is blowing, and our maitre d' on the train gives the first tasting of the day with our house wine that's made by John Charles Boisset and the Raymond family. And it's great wine. It's a Chardonnay, Merlot, Cabernet, classic varietals, all Napa Valley fruit, and it kind of tells the story. What's great about it is we get to tell them a little bit of the story of the wine train, the story of Napa Valley, the AVAs, what makes this place great for growing wine. We fill in the story that our 2 winery partners that we then later stop at don't tell, so it kind of sets the scene. Mm-hmm. Then we reseat them in the dining cars. We continue north up to Charles Krug Winery, where they get to enjoy their appetizer, their entree. And then we disembark at Krug. We enjoy a great tasting at Krug for an hour. Oftentimes, one of the Mondavi sisters are doing the tastings, which is always a special treat. And they never tell anybody until the very end of the tasting. Sorry to spoil the surprise if you come ride with us. Nice. But they don't tell the story of who they are until at the end, when the tasting is over and they're getting ready to reboard. They say the reason why we know so much about the history of the Napa Valley Wine Train, the Krug Winery, the Mondavi family, is because my last name is Mondavi. And our crowd every day goes crazy. And then we do a cheese course on our way to Visa Tui. We do a great tasting of Visa Tui. And if you've ever been to Visa Tui, I think the one thing that we all can agree is there's no more heartwarming hometown hero of a winery than Visa Tui. Their doors are always open. They are so generous. They just love their customers that come in. And so it just speaks in everything they do. And they've also got that captive cheese and charcuterie and gift space. And so we do a 3-course, 4-wine tasting seated in one of their cellar rooms. And then the guests get unleashed on the retail space to just go crazy for 30 minutes, which is a fabulous end to that tasting.
How much wine can you take on?
And then it's how much, I know, we've got lots of storage space on the wine train. So they do. They load those boxes back on. Luckily, the wineries ship wine, too. We don't like to forget that. But that last wine of the day that the Visa Tui folks pour is a 20% alcohol Madeira.
Oh,
and
that's a
that
cool
thing
story
has some
too.
kick. And then it's also got some great sugar to it. We serve dessert right after Visa Tui on our way back to the station. And when that alcohol hits and the sugar hits, it's like this magical combination that people in Napa know very well. It just creates this like liquid energy.
Yep.
And so we, meticulously turn up the music just a little bit, but not too much in the cars. And we've got a great playlist that we have a specific DJ out of Vegas that does all of our music sets for us on the trains.
So cool.
And each train has its own playlist so that it's customized to the experience that we want to have. And one of those playlists at the end of that Legacy Day is our dance playlist that encourages toe tapping. And then pretty soon people do start toe tapping and we invite them to come dance on the open air car. And as we come back into the station, every day, almost 365 days a year, people end with dancing in that open air car, just pumping it up, singing Whitney Houston at the top of their lungs.
Cool.
It is a magical recipe.
Nice.
Though, if you did all those experiences separately, you would be spending so much more. Think if we went to breakfast and then...
And you have to hire a driver.
You'd have to hire a
$200
driver.
on Ubers.
And to get those, tastings and that eloquent, eating menu.
Yes.
That's not the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It would be to me that sounds like a deal.
Our chef Rod is incredible, but really it stands to be said that Rod can't do anything alone, right? There's no I in team. And in a train operation, there's so many different kitchens we're operating that it's more than one guy. You've got to have your leader at the helm pointing a direction that we're going to go. But man, he takes his culinary team for a ride.
Nice. So the mechanics of that. So you've got the culinary, the actual kitchen car in the middle, and then you're running stuff both ways. How does this work?
Correct. Yeah. So in our a good example. Can I talk about Thanksgiving really quick? Because we just had Thanksgiving last week. Thanksgiving last week, we just had around 200 plus people on our Thanksgiving lunch train. Everybody enjoying all of the traditional fixings, beautiful food. Mm-hmm. We serve it to our team at the station on Wednesday to everybody's delight. And then we serve it to our team that works on Thanksgiving at the end of the ride. And on that day, we have 3 different kitchen cars working to serve those people the best, highest quality, freshest food from the closest kitchen to their dining seat. As opposed to one kitchen serving everybody, we compartmentalize so that we can serve the best and quickest food from the kitchen to the table so that they can enjoy it at the best. That's peak freshness. And then the beauty is we know how many covers we're going to do each day. We're referred to as a restaurant on wheels, and I really think that underplays the overall experience of what the wine train is because it's so much more than a restaurant. And when you throw the customers in here, I think the expectation is that it's a food on a train. And if you've ever traveled Amtrak, I would understand. But we are not Amtrak. No. We've got our kitchen at our commissary where we do all of our prep. We make everything from scratch every morning for that day. And we know exactly how many customers we're going to have each day. There's no guesswork. And so it's a science. What's amazing is that the team is able to create their calculations for percentages so that we can get the count pretty much correct every day as to how many people are going to have salmon, how many people are going to have chicken, how many people are going to have short rib, how many people are going to have steak. And be able to do that a la minute service on a daily basis for 250, 300 people a day. It's pretty amazing.
Nice.
It's pretty cool.
Is it usually pretty booked up for most part, or do you is like a better time to go during the week, or the weekend's pretty full? Or
I think that right. I think we typically see a lot of our customers book within 2 months out from their visit. We think that if you're coming from far away, we think it's a great thing to book while you're booking your hotel room, because then you can get the premium experience that you want and not worry about missing that ticket. But we also know that around 50% of our visitors come in for a day trip to Napa, ride the train, then go home. And the other 50% are staying in a hotel. Yep. And so they might be coming in to the station in the morning, walking in and just jumping on the train and go. But it's all about, like, what is the preference? That legacy experience we were talking about, it's a max of 49 people a day, and it's basically sold out year-round.
Wow.
And so that is something that if you want to do that, you want to plan ahead and get that ticket.
So here's something I want to bring up. There was a tequila train and a beer train.
Yes.
That are no longer going. And I'm curious, is that going to come back?
We are looking, Cinco de Mayo is on Friday next year.
Uh-huh.
Ooh.
And so that's a pretty nice recipe for something fun. But I also want to remember our roots, right? We are the Napa Valley Wine Train. And the majority of the customers that are coming into Napa to ride the train are really here for what put Napa on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Wine.
And we take a lot of credit for that, of course, because we're proud, but we know it's wine. We have so much respect for Napa Valley vintners, the grape growers that have fought and worked this land as long as they have to really create something out of this destination. And we pay homage to that. That's really our primary role. Cool. So beer definitely has a role, because we know the heart to every winemaker is a great beer.
It's a lot of good beer to make great wine.
We love that.
Yep.
And we also like our spirits too.
Nice.
And so we'll see. We'll continue to play and mix up that recipe.
Put my vote in for a beer train. It used to be on Mondays, right? I think it was like a Monday.
That predates me.
I would love you to share with everyone.
That would be a very good local, like...
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Like, the locals would love a little tequila night or beer night, for sure.
Anyway,
for sure.
That's my vote.
Something to keep in mind.
Keep it up.
Do you want to tell us really quickly about your memories as a child on the wine train?
I do. I was...
Because I know we both have, like, penny memories.
We were talking about this on the way down. And, yeah, I distinctly remember I went to the preschool right there on Kneebaum Lane in 29. And we always run out when the wine train was coming. You could hear it from a while away. And we, very dangerously would run out and put pennies in the tracks, which I'm sure never happens anymore, right? And then the pennies would get smushed, and you'd have your penny from the wine train. But the cool thing was the conductor always had candy. They always had Dum-Dums, and they'd throw out the Dum-Dums to the kids who were running by the train. Now, I'm sure there's liability reasons that we can't do that anymore. But,
I'm not going to say that they don't do that.
If you ever have candy, you should, maybe...
I was going to say, that is one of my favorite childhood memories. Is like, you would hear, even at like Pizzeria Trevigny, when it was Tomatina back then, you would hear the train coming, and we would run out and like wait and wave to the conductor. And
I mean, there's something like nostalgic, romantic, like something about childhood that evokes in all of us the sense of being on a train or seeing trains pass by, hearing a train whistle. And I think it's just because it's so railroad history is so integral to the history of our country. Like, we wouldn't be who we are today as a country without railroads. And it's funny because that town of Crockett, where the line first originated to bring people up here, is named after the man Crockett, who was one of the 4 individuals that fought to build the Transcontinental Railroad, which one side started in Crockett, the other side on the East Coast, and they met in the middle. And that's what really kind of like mapped out this nation and made it accessible to so many people. And that's, I think we all kind of feel that intrinsic in our blood when we're born and raised here, and just, we know that's a big part of who we are. And then, of course, if you're from Napa, you've been dealing with the wine train from the beginning.
Yeah.
I gotta say, it was a good long-term strategy, because you've given all these kids that now have grown up, and you don't see any no wine train signs anymore. Everyone's pro wine train now, man, because you've given all the kids who are now adults wine.
That's good.
It's a long-term goal.
Long-term goal.
Marketing strategy.
Well, we are so blessed. I got to say, like, our engineers and conductors are incredible people.
Yes.
Some of them are full-time, passionate foamers that just love railroads, and just this is their dream job. Right? They could never imagine doing something else. We have one young man, Artemis, who started with us last year, never worked at a railroad before, was really passionate, wanted to learn, And we took him in as a trainee for a conductor, and he's running trains now as an engineer. And to be able to get his certification and to get that far as quick as he did and to be a star player for us is a testament. Cool. But then you complement that with guys like Nace, who's an assistant DSLE for us, one of the guys that runs our shop with our engineers and conductors, like super smart guy. He's been railroading for over 30 years, is a retired guy from a legit, like huge railroad operation, has so much experience running trains across the country. And now this is like his full-time baby to just help to bring the dream to life, but in a smaller 36 round-trip mile format. And so it's like this really interesting, complex mix of people. We have female... we have a female assistant DSLE.
I know Bernadette. I know her.
Bernadette.
She's awesome.
We've got Tori.
Cool.
We've got Laura, who's our dispatcher. I mean, like, we've got just the most interesting mix of colors, backgrounds, genders, just... It's a full melting pot of just everything that's best about California and Napa Valley.
Cool.
Nice.
This is going to make me sound not like the most intelligent person, but so growing up, we had the train here. So engineer to me has always been a train driver.
Right.
So I remember like in middle school, my parents were starting to
You
talk
wanna be an
about
engineer when you grow up?
colleges, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, they have a great engineering program. I'm like, that's so cool. But like, I don't know if it's my life passion to drive a train. And my parents are like, oh God,
That's pretty
we
cool.
need to
Hillary.
get her out of the valley. Like, she thinks that an engineering program is to drive trains, but that's from the wine train.
So if you need any medical advice,
Yes.
Hillary Happy is your
Yes,
nurse
exactly.
practitioner of choice.
Is this boosting confidence?
I made it far. I mean, I was much younger then. This was a good 20 years ago.
I would have, speaking of childhood, I think the other thing that really evokes a lot of sense of nostalgia and childhood is our pending holiday. We just passed Thanksgiving.
Can we hear
Let's
about
hear
all
the
the
train.
Christmas
And
fun you guys
it's
do?
it's been a few years. 2019 was the last Santa train. So this year we're so happy to be bringing Santa back. And a little bit different this year.
Okay.
But, Santa Train is etched in the history of Napa Valley as one of the iconic Napa Valley wine train experiences. And for the locals, the only thing they know of the wine train is the Santa train. I think part of the challenge with that is Santa Train is built for the kids. It's not built for the adults. Except that, of course, if the kids have a good time as parents, we're always going to enjoy that experience too. But Santa Train was started by Vince DiDomenico as a give back to the community to say thank you for tolerating and putting up with us every year. This is before there was the Polar Express trains and all that. And so we've never been Polar Express. We are just the Santa Train. And it's an elegant journey with great music and caroling, hot cocoa and cookies. And this year, for the first time, we're incorporating 2 different dinner experiences. It's still a 1.5 hour journey, so it's going to be a fast experience up and back. Kids have a limited shelf life in a train. But we'll get them up and back, and those 2 different dinner experiences will be 3-course meals, one menu version with an more upscale for more adventurous young diners in our Dome car, which is one of 10 Dome cars built in Milwaukee. And this is one of 2 that's left in existence, so it's a special experience. Wow. You sit up high, you've got a lot of windows to look out. And then you've got our other dinner experience with 3-course, with a little bit more approachable menu. But the food is all good. It's chicken nuggets, it's salmon.
Everything that's going to make
it's
a
short
kid happy.
ribs.
This is Hillary's dream. It's not a kid's dream. It's
And so, I call it food for
Can
everybody.
I get champagne on the side? And
Right.
then I'll,
Yeah, I know. Fried chicken and,
Yeah.
and champagne.
Exactly.
Great.
So where does it go? It goes from here. Does it stop in Yountville?
We're going to go up to Yountville and back.
Yountville. Cool.
Yep.
And
you have to
Santa
send it-
comes.
And so the activity starts in the station at 3 o'clock. We've
Okay.
got Santa there with Mrs. Claus doing photos for the people that bought the dinner portion of the ticket. We've got a great Santa letter writing station set up at the station where postcards are available, where people will be able to write, the kids will be able to write what their wish list is to Santa. Some fun little touches included in those postcards. We've got beautiful coloring books for the kids to keep them entertained on the trains. Our team right now is bundling crayons because, we have to think about that in advance too. And nightly we expect around 330 people to be on the train.
Nice.
A lot of groups of 10 to 20 mixed families from all ages that'll be here to celebrate and have a good time. A lot of regulars that have been with us year after year after year. And so really good time to come.
So it's hard to get a ticket, but
Yeah, I was
what
gonna
is
say,
the
if
best
you
way
can- if you can
Yes.
tell us.
to get it before it's sold out?
The secret for the locals, given
Yep.
you guys are from St. Helena, is that we do pre-launch this year in May the tickets for the locals, but you have to call in, not online, because once it goes online, anybody can book and it goes quick. And so this year we opened up in May. We tried to get the word out through all of our channels. And then basically May through end of June, we were able to sell to the locals. We sold out most of the tickets that way.
Wow.
And then once we hit July, we opened it up to the rest of the world. And by the end of August, we'd sold out.
Wow.
I mean, that is 6 months in advance.
Crazy.
That's incredible.
A lot of popularity.
Yeah.
We also are slowing things down in general. I think that's something that we see in life too right now. In the old days, and there's always the flexibility to go back to this again, but they call it traditional train fare seating, where like we're sitting at a table right now that's built for 4. It's a booth, and you can see how intimate it is. Knee to knee, cheek to cheek is what I like to say. And in the old days before COVID, if you were a couple, you'd be sharing this table with another couple. Make a friend. It's going to be a journey together. And that doesn't lend itself towards being romantic, having that quality time with one another. And so since COVID, we haven't resumed that traditional fare seating. And so right now, everybody's getting their own table throughout the train. And what we think that's done is it's allowed for us to slow life down a little bit from a service perspective, elevate the quality of the experience quite a bit, and be able to generate a better experience for the customer. Nice. So we think that's kind of sticky. So we'll see how this continues. But right now, it's a really great recipe.
Cool.
Now the Santa train, it all goes out the window because it's going to be kids galore running around. The one thing different that we joke about is we won't find a kid 5 cars down and their parents enjoying a glass of wine in another car. We're not going to be allowing people to mix and move about the trains like we normally do on our day trip journeys. We encourage people to get up and wander the trains because we think all the cars have their own story to tell.
Well, that's what I used to get in trouble for when I went on this train as a young 5 or 6 year old, probably in the maybe 1990, 91. With my grandparents, we would run. The cousins would all run from train to train or from car to car, and I think we got in trouble for it a couple times. So
that's what we were talking about. That's why you're banned.
This is the first time I've been back on the train.
This is why it was such a goal to get us here because.
Chris, I promise I'm going to pull the Bolo photo of you from 6 years old from the reservation area because I think that they can let you back on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I made it.
All that military experience finally paid off.
You learned some discipline somewhere along the way.
I love it. Well, speaking of cars, what are the different? I mean, you have so many cool options, right? You've got like you said, the viewer, the tour car, the glass dome car, the
Vista Dome car. We've got the majority of the cars are 1910, 1911 Pullman cars, which have all been refinished, and we continue to do a lot of the work still today, and the majority of that work is done in-house by our own team. We've got this crazy crew of guys that just love what they do and do an amazing job. And so from all of the woodworking that we do with the mahogany to all of the electricity, the HVAC, the plumbing, like everything that we do is done in-house, which is really cool to be able to restore and maintain these great and beautiful old cars. The variety of different cars, we've got 9 cars on the main train, which is the big one that you'll see rolling up and down the valley in the classic burgundy and gold color. We're so grateful right now, too, that we've got the Alcos back on again. These are the old locomotives that point one direction, so you'll see those at the front. Those haven't run for 4 years.
Wow.
And so neat that the team got on those, worked hard at them.
Those are the square, angular black ones, right?
Yes. No, these are the big red and gold ones that match the color scheme of the rest of the consist.
Got it.
And so getting those back online was a priority for us this year, and that's something that people would ask about too, like why do you have the switcher cars? The switchers are very convenient because you can look forward and backwards from those train cars because you've got windows going both ways, which means that an engineer can run that train from that one locomotive without having to change locomotives. But the Alcos only point one direction, but they're so stylish and sleek.
And what were those used for originally?
Pulling trains.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, as a part of the consist, you'd have 2 locomotives, and that's why you look at the locomotives, and they're one's pointing north, one is pointing south. And so when we get up to St. Helena, we'll disconnect the locomotive set, move it to the south part of the consist, reconnect, and the engineer will move from the north-facing locomotive to the south-facing locomotive now to pull the train back the other way so that he's making sure that he's driving safe for those people that crossed over into the crossing and they're freaking
people
out.
Who backed into the crossing guard.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we have a crime one in the old one about someone getting stuck on the tracks. Well, I have a lost puppy, but I also have officer observed approximately 3/4 tons of grapes on the roadway.
Okay. This is a fun.
But I think in your old one you have it.
That one's pretty funny. 1906. Let's see.
There's a great one at 746 about an Edward Street resident reported having a rat trapped in the kitchen. This is definitely police-worthy material back then. Possibly behind a toaster oven. She asked for officers' help to remove it. She was told it was not a police matter and to contact pest control instead. We better call the city manager. He should know about that.
I was going to say, I am a little disappointed that they did not go over and help her.
Was that your rat, Hillary?
It wasn't. Okay. It wasn't.
Hillary would probably be a friend to all of the rats, though. Where's the really funny one that we...
Oh, it's down here.
No, that's not it.
Oh, I lied. I have
Find it.
Sorry.
There's a really, really good one. Here we go. Okay. I'm gonna take this one, Hill.
Please do.
11 o'clock at night, Sunday, October 22nd, 1989. 1800 block of Pine Street. Mother reported subject reached into daughter's bedroom window and touched their cat's nose, then left. Officer was unable to locate. So it started off creepy, then turned to a little bit endearing, but still weird.
Still very creepy.
Still quite
Still
weird.
very creepy. If someone reached through my bedroom window at night and like touched Wally's nose and then left,
Yeah.
he probably wouldn't bark because he's not a guard dog, but I would be very concerned.
Yeah, my daughter's 5. Don't reach into her bedroom window.
Yeah.
Well, there she wanted. Yeah.
I'm sure it was someone from the local, what is it always called in the log? The local bar. The local...
a Main Street bar?
A local cantina. I'm sure they just wandered, got distracted, and saw the...
Yeah, I like to think in 89 that wouldn't have been so bad, but you never know. It's a little creepy.
One good cantina in every town in Napa. That's part of the journey.
Yeah,
there's finding that one spot in each town.
The dive bar.
I like this one because I think it's a lesson for all of us. I need to learn from this. But a report of a car speeding and passing illegally on Main Street. Police stopped the car near Main and Zinfandel. The caller declined to sign the citation, so police let the driver go with a warning. So if that works, I didn't know it would work, but I might.
Interesting.
My favorite one, too, somewhere in here is about the driver was accused of drunk driving. They pulled the guy over, and he was just avoiding the potholes on one of the streets in the valley.
If it was St. Helena, then that's probably accurate. There's no shortage of potholes. No. Speaking of maintenance, my other question about Wine Train is, what's the most difficult part of running the Wine Train when it comes to maintenance? Like, what's the hardest part to keep running?
Gosh, that is a great question. There's so much. Being a hotel guy for 23 years, this is definitely a big learning curve. Mm-hmm. And it's been so fun, though, at the same time, because it is just so dynamic. Every day is something different. And for us, it's probably a lot of just running the older train cars and keeping them operating. They are like babies that need a lot of attention, and every day you just never know what you're going to be walking into. And over time, of course, things move, shake, and so things come apart. We just constantly are on top of them. But you've also got to figure all of that right-of-way that runs up to the town of St. Helena and terminates at Krug now instead of Calistoga is ours to maintain and respect. And so that all takes time. We've got 4 guys in that team that are swinging the hammers, singing the songs, changing out those railroad ties, driving those nails to keep that operational. That was really tricky. I would say that we did a lot of investing into that right-of-way this past year. And to the chagrin of some of our locals, we break stuff when we fix stuff, and then we got to go fix it again, and that's all part of being a train. And so we did have some signal maintenance issues this year that caused for signal malfunctions, that caused for some traffic delays. But that's all, we appreciate the patience and just know that we'll get through it and fix it. And we appreciate your phone calls to let us know if it's broken, because we might not already know.
It'll be on Nextdoor.
Exactly, it does. Facebook is a big hot site for us, too. We like to follow that.
Absolutely. I have another thought. The Rutherford one that's kind of sitting there desolate.
Yeah, the deal.
Do we have big plans for that?
We do. I mean, that is a labor of love, and it is an issue of complexity because Napa, as you know, dating back to the 60s, was envisioned to be a community of 1.5 million people. The state of California commissioned a survey and determined that this was going to be a high-density population site to feed the commute into San Francisco, given our location being 60 miles away. And in the later part of the 60s, the owner at that time of Napa Wine Co., which is right across the street from Oakville Grocery Store, was on the county supervisors as a board of director, and was the only elected official that was a wine grape grower. And he got wind of this survey of 1.5 million people and saw his future of growing grapes in Napa Valley abolished. And he decided to get those county supervisors on board with passing the first ag preserve of the United States of America, which protected over 30,000 valley acre from development. And in the complexity of that, it also really kind of hindered a lot of what that site is good for today. Mm-hmm. And part of the challenge dates back to the previous ownership, who used to operate a facility out of there with a coffee shop. And then because of that county ordinance, the use permit fell away because it wasn't used in a certain amount of time. And so now there's this big complexity of unraveling what is capable to be done with that site. We're passionate about it. We think it deserves to be something incredible. But right now there's so many other projects that are pressing that we want to prioritize. And the first and most important being continuing to resurrect the wine train after that 14-month closure from COVID.
Sure.
And so right now we are definitely licking our wounds still and just getting our feet back under us as we look at the future ahead. But we know that there's so few iconic opportunities left to define Napa Valley. Napa Valley has really defined itself in so many ways. And so the future ahead means that those special sites like that Rutherford Depot, it deserves to be something amazing because everything in Napa is amazing.
Yeah, from growing up there, I remember the Tucker Plumbing used to be there, and then, like you said, that other coffee thing. But it would be great to see
like
that restored.
Like a 911 flagship store.
Perfect, Hillary. Yes, you can sell your hats there.
We can sell hats. We can maybe have ice cream and champagne, all our favorite things.
Lots of pink things and scrumptious treats.
Just throwing it out there.
That would be Hillary's idea of the store.
You got some good ideas for our afternoon tea train.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of my favorite things, I want to hear more about the tea.
That this
because
year.
Tea is my favorite.
The team, we talked about what did we want to do for Mother's Day. And it was like, well, gosh, it's so hard to create an experience for one day. Let's not do that. Let's create something that will be good all year. And Napa Valley and the wine train, like it is, women love a reason and excuse to come to Napa Valley, get dressed up, taste wine, sit around and share intimate conversations in a small, intimate setting. And on a train car, like how can you beat that? And so that's where the genesis for the afternoon tea car came from. 3 hours, 4 courses, 3 steep teas, sparkling wine, 3-tier risers of finger foods and sandwiches, 2-tier riser of small finger food desserts. Like just blow your hair back, amazing little experience. 3 hours up and back, 11:30 to 2:30. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, April through October.
Can you add more wine if you want to?
You certainly can.
Okay.
Yes.
There we go. Answered Hillary's question.
There we go.
And so it is really, it's a really fun experience and very old world in that essence that it captures the glory days. It gives people a chance to get dressed up. And it's funny when, there's a random gentleman that comes with his significant other and sits down and it's a car full of ladies and he's like, okay, feeling a little bit like a fish out of water. And it's great because it forces that intimacy that she might not get all the time and that he now has to provide, which is good. Sometimes we as guys need that.
And he's stuck
My wife
for 3 hours. So
yeah.
I feel like we're always looking for fun, people living here experiences that we can do that's like a little different and not going to break the bank. And that is something perfect.
Yeah, sure. I agree. And so that is a great experience. That's one of our lower cost experiences too. Nice. That one hovers right around $200.
Well, what are we pouring for the last flight here?
So this is the Raymond Cabernet Reserve 2019 Velvet Label. Jorge, our food and beverage director, loves this label because it's very sexy.
Thank you.
And is one of our wines. That's one of our house wines, so it's a really great little wine, we think.
Cool.
So cheers, Napa Valley.
Cheers.
Yay. So what is in the future for the wine train? What do you think if you could peer into your crystal ball?
Yeah, a little snippet of what's to come.
So we've got the Rutherford Depot as an option, maybe for restoration, hopefully.
Yep.
911 flag store.
Okay, Hillary.
I think there's been plenty in the newspapers in the past about building a hotel where our station is, right across from the West End at the Oxbow.
Okay.
And so that's something that's still out on the horizon. More pressing right now is workforce housing. We've got a fantastic concept right on a piece of property of ours, right at Soskell, where the train tracks cross, which would offer up to potentially 80 different units for workforce. Wow. Lower rent, so affordable. And as we know with Napa, like just finding good people is really hard, number one. But number two, I think the big challenge too is then where do they live and how far do they have to drive to get here? And do they get to enjoy the place which they work? And so we're so excited to bring that to the table. So fingers crossed on that. And then really just continuing to run and operate this great wine train and keep it alive. We know we can't take it for granted because it did go away, not only back after the Brannon era ended, but then again during COVID. And so one of the things that we're really looking hard at to pay homage to Napa Valley next year is this beautiful 6-course, 7-wine, full education, pairing, tasting, wine educator. It's what we do best. Tell our story, tell the Napa Valley story, tell the AVA story, and kind of wrap it all up into a 1-3-hour, really elegant, dynamic lunch experience. So that's going to be the new offering next year that we're working on right now.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
And how about some fascinating history and information about our local
Silverado Trail?
Yeah, so the Silverado Trail was aptly named after the silver miners that once the Sierra Nevada foothills had been mined out, everybody had their stake. There were more people that kept coming, and so they started hiking up what's now called the Silverado Trail to find silver on Mount St. Helena's, which is the largest mountain at the north end of our valley. And there wasn't anything of substance there. They found some trace minerals. But ultimately, they looked around and they said, this is a pretty beautiful place. And so they settled all in St. Helena to call that home. And so when you go back, it was a lot of Germans primarily that kind of called that place home. And so hence you've got Charles Krug, the oldest operating winery, 1861, Beringer that's been around forever, Schramsberg, some of those iconic brands. When it all started there and then kind of continued to evolve throughout the rest of Napa, starting in the beginning with German varietals like Riesling and Pinot Noir, but thin-skinned grapes that don't do well in high heat. St. Helena is more of a Bordeaux-driven varietal location because of the heat. And so inevitably they gave up on grape growing and went back to what they did best otherwise, which was hops. So there is a firm foundation in beer. And then later came along Primitivo, one of the grandfather grapes was Zinfandel, hardy, thick skin, could withstand those 110-degree days. And sure enough, they found that recipe, and then much later came the Cabernet Sauvignons that we all love and adore today from Napa Valley. But then jumping forward too, that history of Napa is so diverse. There's the man that founded the town of Yountville was named George Yount, who received a large land acquisition. And later in his life, there was rumor of some party that got stranded up in the Sierra foothills right at the top of the Donner Pass, and he decided to go up there to rescue the remaining members of the Donner Party and banded together a group of Napans to go up there in this snowstorm and bring the rest of that party down. They all came back here to Napa, and many of them ended up staying and settled in Napa Valley. And so there's a lot of Donner blood that runs through the old families from Napa Valley. And so I always like to tease that that's why we have our passion for red wines, because red wines pair really well with red meat.
And why did I not learn about this in fourth grade?
That's fascinating.
I know. I feel like this.
I
did
no
a whole
idea.
book report on the Donner Party, and this
Wow.
never came up. My teachers did me wrong.
Yeah, do the reading. It's there. It's so crazy.
That's why I thought engineers were
But they
all...
got stuck
there
up
you go.
there. Luckily, the majority of them did not kill anybody to consume and stay alive. There was some of that occurred. But
Yeah.
like when you're surviving and you're fighting for your
You'll
life.
do anything.
you gotta-
So did he actually make it up to rescue people?
So he did, yeah. The Donner Party came down. He brought the remaining party
That's
to Napa,
incredible. Wow.
and
I
most
never
of
knew
them
that.
stayed in Napa and called this home.
I would like to look at some of those names and see
See who we know.
who's still around. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Because there's a lot of names that end in I.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Northern Italian or Swiss names, and then like you said, German names, and like Hoppy. But it's very cool.
That history in Napa is so dynamic. I think the
Fantastic.
future is, still being told though, and that's why I think that there's these big opportunities, like we talked about with the Rutherford Depot, right? There's these big opportunities that are still left. There's the old resort that's been abandoned that just got
Soda
purchased
Springs.
up on top of
Yeah.
Spruce Springs. Like,
Who
what's
ended
that?
up buying that? Do you know?
It's some hotel company. I forget who it
yes,
is.
I read this, and of course now I'm
That's
going
a
to
Boy, I
blame.
tell
very
you,
cool.
talk about complex in
Yeah.
Napa, trying to get that
So
through.
Ag Preserve also.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Well, if you
there's-
did have your best case scenario with the Rutherford Depot, what would it be? What do you think?
I don't want to even weigh in on that because I think I'm too new, number one. I don't have my opinion made up yet. It's kind of like the approach that I take to what I like to do, which is pay respect first. And I look at the Santa train as an example, and my gosh, but like I am so stressed to have this experience go live on Thursday this week, December 1st. Because I've been on the Santa train twice as a customer with my kids. I have those photos from when my kids got to see Santa on the train.
I'll make sure it goes right.
And so, I want this to be right.
Right.
First thing people asked last year when I started the wine train, are you doing Santa train this year? Yep. And I was so glad to be able to say, no, we took a pass last year with COVID, not getting kids all together in a confined place. We're not doing it this year. But it's time.
Cool.
Man, I just hope it goes so well. We've got Santa's coming down. He's excited as all get up with Mrs. Claus. We've got amazing programming with great carolers in the station from 3 to 5:30. We've got the best chocolate chip cookie you'll ever have, and I'm gluten-free, so we'll have that option covered too because we've got to. It's going to be every detail covered. It's going to be amazing.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Cool.
Perfect. And how about the, I know the bike path is something you guys are also kind of partnered up with, I forget the name exactly. But
Yeah,
Chuck
the
McMillan
Rail
was working
Arts
that.
District
Thank you, Rad.
is
Yes.
our commute path through the heart of Napa Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly and excitedly, 2 weeks ago we partnered with them and to install, I think it was 21 new pieces of art, which are large round terracotta pieces, which add a new and fun, elegant, dynamic experience for people that are using that on the Napa Valley Wine Trail. And Chuck McMillan and team have been working so hard for so many years to build what will be a bike path from Vallejo Ferry Terminal all the way up to the town of Calistoga and back. It'll be an epic 100 miles round trip, I think is what it's rumored to be. And right now it, of course, really starts in South Napa and goes up to the town of Yountville and terminates. And some really exciting news is they're continuing to work out the through fare from the town of Yountville north through St. Helena and then all the way up to Calistoga. They have the majority of that plan mapped out now. And so now it's about grant money, donations, nonprofit charity raising, which is always something that is at the heart of Napa Valley and something that we do so well, as you guys know. One of the things that made me so proud this year is our true and heartfelt engagement into the nonprofit world this year. We've got some wonderful nonprofit partners that we support. One of the primary ones being the Napa Valley Boys and Girls Club, which is a sweetheart of the Napa Valley. They've got a great Up Valley chapter, St. Helena and beyond, and then they've got the Napa Valley chapter. We've done a lot with them. We have a train full of their kids and families riding the train next Tuesday night to be able to enjoy the wine train, Santa train experience,
So cool.
which is going to be really awesome. And then in June this year, if you are aware of what was Auction Napa Valley, they transitioned to Collective Napa Valley this year. And that's all hosted by the Napa Valley Vintners, which is just one of the most generous fundraising organizations in Napa Valley. I think you look and it's over $200 million raised since they started Auction Napa Valley back in 1984. It's just phenomenal and inspiring. Linda Reef is the CEO now and is just doing a great job of pioneering their efforts to keep that alive and the fire sparked. And so during that Collective Napa Valley season, we spent a lot of money and a lot of man hours to outfit the trains so that we could mount banners on the outside of the trains in partnership with Greg from the Boys and Girls Club and all of the nonprofits that received money historically from Auction Napa Valley to say thank you back to the Vintners for all the work that they do to make Napa Valley great. And when the train pulled up to where we stop in St. Helena to do the runaround with the main train, Linda Reef had not seen the banner on the train, and they were outside doing a team meeting, as she told me at one of the collective events this year, and said when the team started pointing to her while she was mid-sentence, she turned around and saw the banner saying, "Thank you to the Napa Valley Vintners." A tear came to her eye, and she said, "Wow, Nathan, how far has the wine train come?" That in '89, it was the wineries that fought you all so hard to get started. And now you're thanking the wineries for their support to the community. Like, what a great full circle story.
Nice.
And so that was very touching.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well done.
Awesome.
Right on.
So good stuff happening
Yeah.
all around.
We're
Keep it up,
excited.
and then, like I said, that bike path can get built. That would be really cool.
Vine trail, let's
Because
do
man,
it.
that would
I
be
know.
fantastic, all the way to Calistoga.
If you ever get a chance, McMinn owns that Vineyard 29. He's got a great tasting room down here at the Oxbow, but his main home and all his vineyards are up there just north of St. Helena. And gosh, that stuff is good.
Nice.
So if you ever get a chance to support him, a lot of that money goes back into the vine trail that he raises
I dig
from
it.
that winery.
Yeah.
And it's
Good guy to
delicious
reach
wine.
out to. Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having us. This has been truly a treat.
And if we want to
if we
point people to get tickets to the wine train, where do we go?
Experience, all of those things.
I mean,
where do we go?
To me, I think the best thing to do is pick up the phone and give us a call. Our reservation team is led by Regina Garcia. She's been at the wine train and reservations for 31 years. This lady is the heartbeat of our experience. Tony Giacchio is our yard director. He's been working for the wine train for 33 years. Employee number one basically was Ajmer, who's our dishwasher, who has tonight off. He's been here for over 33 years. Our exec sous chef Chano, who does a lot of our cooking for us, has been with the train now for 29 years. Like, the train has a story, it captivates, and it keeps people around, and retention is a sign of a great business, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm so proud to be a part as a newbie here. But the best place is call. You can always go to the website. But I think our team at the station, with all the tenure, the experience, is the best place to reach out and start your exploration of what you want to book.
Cool.
Love it. Awesome.
Yay.
Yeah. Nathan, thanks
Ask
so much.
for me. Say hi.
Rock and roll. We'll do.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you, and everybody.
Cheers. Keep up the good work, you guys.
You bet. Thank you. All right, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the Napa Valley Wine Train special Christmas edition. Hillary, I have to say thank you for doing all the work to put this together. By the way, I just show up and...
You did chime into our Zoom meeting with the marketing team, and you did show up in your coveralls. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, they are. Wow.
Thank you.
Look at you. You're basically a farmer.
I'm fashion forward, so, I know all aspects of the world.
Well, this was a really fun episode. Again, a lot of fun history and childhood memories. So...
And now is the time to buy your 911 Wine hat for those stocking stuffers. And also, the best Christmas gift you can give us is following us at Instagram at 91 Wine, all the words spelt out, on Instagram, and like
a 5-star review.
Yes, please.
Should you feel that we've earned it.
We did.
Because we do this for free. Also, if anyone wants to sponsor us, we're still sponsorable.
And that's a great Christmas gift, too. Or Kwanzaa, or Hanukkah, whatever your heart desires.
Even Boxing Day.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
You enjoy your evening and be safe.